Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Yes, today I have to talk about a carbon steerer failure on my Canyon fork. There's always a moment in the sport when you especially engage in a new activity where your kind of honeymoon period tends to fade a little bit and some inevitable problems might come. So this happened and I was fortunate enough to find it out in a good time to not have consequences, but it's important to discuss these issues because of course if you do have a similar bike you might want to check your fork as well. No, I'm not going to talk about the famous ring of death and I haven't yet become a vegan. So this is not about the problems that happen to the fork where it joins the top bearings, but where the clamping area of the stem joins the fork, and I've experienced some small fractures on the steerer next to the clamp of the stem. I found out about this problem on my fork when I got my second Canyon Ultimate. If you follow me, you know that I bought the exact same bike I was riding just to keep going on the same rim brake Ultimate that I really like. When I got the new bike, I transferred some of the components on a new bike just to ride it, and I was really happy how smooth it felt. And that prompted me to look into the maintenance of the previous Ultimate, to undo the stem, check the bearings and see how things were, especially after a long year running in traffic, bumps and everything. As soon as I took the stem out, I started to notice some small marks here just next to the clamping element of the integrated stem. What happened is that my Canyon Ultimate CF SL7 came with a standard stem, and I was riding the standard stem on my Ultimate slightly below because I didn't cut the fork at that time, so I had some spacer on top of the stem, which are not really nice for a aesthetics look, but everything worked really well. Problem started, I believe, when I changed to the integrated H31 stem from Canyon, which is the standard issue integrated stem for the Canyon Infleet and the Endurace. Infleet? Inflight? Anyway, that bike. I had also the fork cut from a professional shop, and I was riding the H31 with no spacer on top of the top cap. And this, together with the design of the clamp of the H31, I think is that what it caused the failure on the top steerer of the Canyon. Now let me really focus on the setup of Canyon bikes, because these are different from everything else in the marketplace. Usually with a carbon fork, manufacturer put a compression plug here that forms a strong surface for the stem to clamp and avoid any problems on the structure of the steerer itself. That's why on normal fork and stem combination, when you lower your stem, you also need to cut the fork and position the compression plug down below in the same area where the stem is going to clamp. With Canyon, there is a discrepancy from all the other manufacturers because Canyon forks don't come with a compression plug. If you do buy normal Canyon bikes with the classic stem combination, if you remove the top cap, you will find there's a hollow space where the clamp of the stem is positioned and nothing else to really reinforce the interior of your steerer tube. This is because Canyon has got an oversized steerer, so this is 1 1/4 inch comparing to 1 1/8 inch. that is on a normal standard bike. So this is slightly larger. Canyon thinks that the stem is strong enough to withstand the riding loads without any compression plug, and I do believe them. Now, just as a disclaimer, this is all my personal opinion. If you are in doubt, please check with Canyon themselves, and they might confirm or not what I'm saying. Inside the fork you will find a small plug, which is not a compression plug, which is this element that some mistake as a compression plug. Instead is still a plug that expands, but is not designed to provide any support for the clamping force of the stem. This is only designed for the top cap to have a resistance element to pull up the fork. So this is the usual setup. This is your top cap. This plug is usually around 3 centimeters inside the fork, and when you position the stem with loose bolts, you will be able to pull up the fork to compress the bearings, and then you will tighten the stem clamp. Very, very simple. I've been riding the normal stem and bar combination. This is the setup that you have, and as you can see, there's the side bolts on the stem that compress the stereo tube to avoid any movement. In my case, as I mentioned, I was riding with spacers on top of the stem. So as you can see, the clamping force was applied slightly down below the top of the tube. And I'm not an engineer, but if you do apply a force around here, it's much stronger. The moment you go to apply the force nearer the end of the tube, this of course generates a little bit more force, and the tube on top is slightly softer as normal. Yeah. I believe the problem started when I changed from the standard stem combination to the integrated H31. And the H31, like the new CP10 that are fitted on the newer bikes, they do have the clamps from behind, and they push the tube with a compression piece and 2 bolts at the back that pushes the tube from the back only. And this is where I found exactly in line with the compression element, I found the 2 small cracks on the side exactly where the plug was compressing. And this of course caused me some concern, and I got in touch straight away with Canyon, and I have to say they've been extremely helpful. The problem was compound again because I was riding the H31 with no spacers on top, so to allow the compression of the bearings you do have to have a few millimeters space between the top cap and the top of the stereo. So I would say that this is where the compression element was pushing against the fork and concentrating the load on the smaller part from the back. I believe that has caused the line fracture that follow exactly the shape of the compression. So again, I'm not an engineer, very far from that, but if you do push straight through on a single point, on 2 singles point here, this is what I believe it caused the stress on the stereo tube. If you do have the H36 or H11 cockpits, they do have side bolts that recreate a radial force on the tube, so I would say they are less inclined to have the same pressure point concentrated from the back, because again they do apply the force in a more circular way rather than pushing from behind. When I got back in touch with Canyon, they were extremely helpful, and they say, yes, we have noticed that this is the wording that they have used on the H31 stem combination or anything that's got the backplate like this. It's easy for the users to overtorque the backplate and possibly cause damage on the steerer. Now, I always used the torque wrench to compress the stem. I don't believe I have over tightened, but again, I can't be for sure put the blame on the component of myself. I just can say that this is what happened, and also Canyon, because of these issues, they say that on any new bikes that come with the H31 stem or the CP10, they do now provide a reinforcement element. And this is what I didn't know it existed until I found the problem on my fork. In this case then, Canyon on new bikes, and I found on some of the videos of the unboxing of the new bikes on YouTube that a lot of new bikes, they do have this plug on top of the steerer tube that fits exactly here to provide a stronger platform for the clamp to push. My latest Ultimate that comes with the normal stem combination didn't come with this, so I believe that Canyon still thinks that the normal steerer tube is not going to be affected by problems with the classic stem, but if you do have a bike with a backplate stem when the bolts are from the back, I believe you should have this element fitted to your fork. This is something I now know, and in the future I will of course fit the bike with this reinforcement on the top tube and use the integrated stem with the back plate. And just in case, I have to say I'm a rider on the heavier side in cycling terms, 87-88 kilos. Now, I will also fit the same thing on the round stem combination, just in case, to have a reinforcement element for the top part of the steerer tube. If you do have the normal stem combination, I have to say it is safer, in my opinion, to run a spacer on top of the stem, because again you will clamp the steerer in a much better position if you don't have the insert. If you want to run a flush top cap where you do have a few millimeters space between the steerer tube and the top of the stem, I would say the reinforcement element is highly recommended in my opinion. If you do use the H31 or CP10 integrated combination, this is the back plate that is going to push on your steerer. This is definitely needed. Canyon, they were extremely helpful. They sent me a new fork, which I got it here. Brand new fork that I'm going to fit on my Ultimate. The only thing I might say to Canyon is that this should be supplied with the spacer maybe of the H31 stem that is supplied as an aftermarket part, because when I bought it and I fitted to my bike, I didn't know at that time that the new bikes were coming with this reinforcement part, so I fitted the new integrated cockpit without thinking I needed a reinforcement for the top part of the steerer. My suggestion would be that definitely if you are offering the aftermarket bearing combo stem, this might be included, maybe with the spacer kit. That could be an option, because the spacer kit is supplied with a replacement expander plug to fit inside the fork, but not with the reinforcement part. I still like Canyon, and I don't have any problems. I do have 2 of their bikes, and I will happily buy a new bike in the future. But again, it's always important to check your equipment regularly and making sure that everything is working properly without any damage. Now I got equipped with a couple of tools, with a guide for sewing the fork, and of course the hacksaw, and the 32T blade. So this is what I will do on the new fork to cut the steerer. Sorry? No, I'm not going to hurt you. Don't worry. Where are you going? Where are you going? Anyway, I'm going to convince that I'm going to do a good job without any pain. Thank you again for watching. Let me know your comment. Let me know if the bike you're running, what combination of stem you have, and make sure you do have the reinforcement element if you are running a integrated bar and stem combo with the rear bolts. Thank you again for watching, guys. I'll see you to the next video. Ciao.